All right, my peeps, let's dive in. Today we're revealing, explaining, illuminating, and simplifying Masterteacher33 Academy and Spiritual Technologist. How to become a certified spiritual technologist from the perspective of over, and understanding, and then breaking down the core essence, if you will, of being able to just do and be now. And from that awareness and from that perspective, everything changes as we've been talking about with all of the stuff that we've been talking about really this entire year. But now this is the solution to everything when we talk about the coming, AI cataclysm. Some people like myself are already in that space where, AI has affected you financially. For some people, like my sister Brenda, my wife, they were affected by the government, politics, of getting laid off, you know different things affect different people. Now today's message, I'm trying not to get too excited and scream and yell in your ear and disrespect your eardrums, but it's very difficult to remain humble, if you want to use that term, because when you tap into the awakened divine consciousness state, where you are able to decode spiritual truth, and then you can empower yourself. What that simply means is that just like you, I'm going through, we all are going through something, or we have family members that are going through something, or we're helping people, whatever, life happens. But instead of trying to get out of it, instead of trying to solve it, it's the ability to extrapolate the lesson from it. Now, that's not anything new. What's new is over an understanding that this is about legacy integration. What we're talking about is a digital vault. What I did is I placed all of my content in a digital vault, all the books, all the audios, all the shows, all the diagrams, inside of an LLM, large language model, app, whatever you want to call it. And then I took the life management system and just summarized it and all of the stuff to reduce it down to, for example, if you take a 300-page book and you can put it in ChatGPT and it'll reduce it down to a summary, to streamline it so that way you don't have to read all 1,000 books, but you can still get the information from the 1,000 books, where you can establish a cosmological ID. You can actually establish a neurological theology, and then a theobiological perspective that is Christ-based and Christ-centered, where praise become productive. And since I've been going back to church and talking with the wife, and the biggest takeaway at this highest, newest level of the WWJD or WWYD, what would Yahushua do? What would Jesus do? Is under open understanding that one of the things that I've learned, just from my wife, my brothers and sisters, people that are still in different levels of Christianity, is it's understanding how Source uses all knowledge and all information. That simply means that when you look at the scripture, judge not lest ye be judged. Because whatever degree that you judge, judging means you say something I don't agree with, and therefore I can't hang out with you, because I've identified with a belief and I did not identify with source. So now when we get into understanding as a spiritual technologist, this program, this course, this certification, whether you're coming in as on the investment side, or whether you're just coming in on the certification side, or whether you're doing neither one, you're just going through the 7 levels to be able to pull out the ability to now see a global grid. This is the spiritual technologist global grid system. It allows you to really establish, I like the word Afrofuturistic perspective. Because melanin is, so we look at it from because what we're doing now is, wow, seeing the way by which God has established a system where we think certain things puts you out of, let's use the word kingdom. And so now when you understand that this system is based upon what we call fear. Okay, what is fear? Okay, fear is what you believe about the act or actions that someone else is taking. It's the way that you think about a specific act. That is evil. Okay, what makes it evil though? Well, we all have different perspectives. It may or it may not be evil, but your interpretation of the event. So when you become a spiritual technologist, you are able to transmute. You're able to see the silver lining in the gray cloud. But you're not doing it from a state of a belief. You're doing it from a state of etymology. You're able to trace back so what I did, what I went through especially like what I talked about yesterday, something as simple as the 30-year war. Back in 1618, there was a 30-year war. You can Google this, just type in 30-year war. And it was over really the printing press. But they printed religious beliefs. Before it was in print, though, nobody killed each other. 8 million people died during the 30-year war. And what was it about? It was about the fact that as long as you keep your belief private, nobody cares. But the moment that you put it in print and you try to influence other people's beliefs, then they put their beliefs in print. So they killed each other. What do you think is going to happen that when we go from text, now we're going to tech? So what's coming? So this is what spiritual technology allows you to read what's going on in the world, what's going on in the text. Then you can see it going on in the text. So when they want to put neural, like supposedly right now what's going on in the UK, depending on if you believe it, because again, I'm not over there, so unless you know somebody there, especially now with artificial intelligence. So supposedly if you don't go to bed by 10, if you're on the internet, so they're saying that people are so addicted to technology that the government now is imposing not only the digital ID, but also digital curfew and they take money directly out of your digital bank account because you're violating digital laws. Now, if that is true, China's already doing that. That's what a lot of the good old boys, want. They want more control. So that doesn't surprise me because I did a series and I wrote a book called Kali Yuga. And if you guys remember the Kali Yuga, it's an Indian belief system of the cyclical rise and fall of global consciousness based upon what I talked about on 10-10-2025, which is the digital twin, because 10-10-2025 equals 11, 1 and 1, 9-11, where we get the Twin Towers, the digital twin. The movie Tron came out. What was it about? It's about data taking over matter. So it's also cosmology tells you what's going on so you can establish theology. And then the theology establishes the biology. Now, we could also talk about what I talked about before. There is another book called The Cosmic Scam that gets into the Ethiopian and the Gregorian calendar. So according to the Gregorian calendar, I'm not born in September. I'm sorry, the Ethiopian, because of the 13th zodiac sign. Remember, I wrote the book on Ophiuchus, the 13th zodiac sign. So our times, remember, in the Bible it talks about that somebody's going to come and change times and seasons, and that's what Constantine did. Then I did a show breaking down Richard Constantine that talked about what? The ice wall, the Garden of Eden, the den of enclosure. Supposedly there's a bunch of other lands that we don't have access to. What are we talking about? What about the Gospel of Judas? What about the Secret Supper? What about the Codex Gigas? All of these are what? These are esoteric ancient texts. So instead of reading all of those, I just summarize them. Now you can do the same thing. It's just that I've already done that in a lot of, so you have access to that digital vault. But what is the purpose? Is to understand that each cell in your body is like an individual solar system. So the energy has to change inside your cells first. Then the universe mirrors the energy that changes inside the cell. That's just cellular. So everything is based upon, so your cells are determined by your cells. So our solar system, again, cosmology, entrains meaning through the principle of what they call solar resonance. Now, this is available also at NASA.gov, or NASA's website. So what are we talking about? We're talking about, as I said, on 10/10/2025, the age, they're coming out of the age of Aries. That's where all the conflict was going on. Now we're going into the age of Gemini, twin, mirror, digital twin. That's where the movie Tron came out. So if you pay attention, because attention is not free, you will understand what's coming in 2026, 2027. You can't be in a space where you are mentally disturbed. If you follow, like it says in Genesis, the stars, because they're given to us so we can understand times and seasons. That's what a spiritual technologist is. So not only do I want to train and certify people on my system, but we can establish a global network of certified individuals sharing the same awareness, so that way people get out of spookism. And I can tell you what's going to happen based upon celestial mechanics, as we talked about in the last series on celestial mechanics. That's why I've been doing all of these series, writing all of these books to help you over and understand, number one, that you have to take control and become the architect of your mind. Number one. What is the purpose of the Masterteacher33 Academy? Is to create a global network of spiritual certified, licensed, ordained, if you want that term, certified. It's like we do with life coaching and everything else. And it's an affiliate marketing type system. But what is the point? The point is to establish the ability for you to structure thought. Structured thought is the only way to keep from being hijacked by artificial intelligence. So when a thought comes into my head that says panic, like I tell you guys before, the last 2 years have been a miracle. Every day is a miracle. Being able to do what I do for a living, everything is it challenging? Yes, because you have to replace, as I've learned now, you have to replace one evil with a greater evil. What does that mean? Well, we live in a world that is motivated by fear. Fear is more powerful than faith, meaning we drive the speed limit because of the fear of getting a ticket. We pay taxes because of the fear of getting audited by the IRS. We go to church because of the fear of going to hell. We do a lot of things because we want to avoid, where there's greater levels of avoidance. So you may, once you understand how to use fear to empower faith, boom, it's downhill, because now, whether you are in fear or in faith, you can't be conned, you can't be manipulated, you can't be bamboozled. And so now you don't have to argue with anybody. Like, say, the teachings on hell. Okay, now you can use that teaching the way the church did. What did they do? Well, if you don't get saved, you're going to hell. Well, that's a motivating factor. to avoid this. So what you got to do to not go to hell? Well, you got to keep the 10 Commandments. Okay, what's wrong with that? Really nothing. Why? It makes you a better moral person. I mean that it makes you a little. I know that's what it did for me. So I've been spending too much time arguing about the doctrine instead of looking at the benefit. So we're not doing that no more. We're going to the next level. The next level is, unless it violates what Jesus said. When they asked him, hey, bro, can you sum it up? Sure. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and might, okay? Anybody that's not doing that, okay, we might want to, limit our interaction. The second is like the first. Love your neighbor as yourself. Very simple. That's spiritual technologists. We awaken to Christ consciousness. We decode what Christ said in the red letters, because all he talked about was repent for the kingdom, like Dr. Miles wrote, which is what I've been doing and will continue to do. I'm just certifying people to do the same thing now. Why? Because I'm seeing the division that is taking place, but it's dividing around what? Same thing that I used to teach it, because it divided me too. So I'm seeing, okay, the enemy's smart. He's getting us to split hairs. Okay, LG, I saw this thing where, one of the football players, I think it was Deion's son, didn't want to promote the LGBTQXYZ movement. And then Deion, I think, didn't want to promote it. So what is that? Well, that's the same thing. What we're talking about. What are we talking about? We're talking about a lower level law. Am I for LGBTQXYZ? Not really. Am I against LGBTQXYZ? Being for it, don't put no money in my pocket. Being against it, it doesn't put no money in my pocket. So it's not relevant. That allows us to do what? Empower our fellow man. Because now I can talk to an LGBTQXYZ person because I'm not against them. And I can talk to people that are against them because I'm not for them. So I'm not for or against. Okay, well, what am I for then? Christ consciousness. Love your neighbor as yourself. Don't judge. Because of whatever degree that you judge, that same degree. So it's the judgment. Because what happens when we judge ourselves? It makes you feel what? Ashamed. What happens when you do something? You say, okay, I'm going to work out today. And you don't work out. And you judge yourself because you didn't work out. Well, you should just say, I ain't going to work out today. I'm going to work out tomorrow. So not only do we got to stop judging ourselves, we got to stop judging everybody else. Because that's what the scripture says. That's what Jesus says. We're supposed to love one another. No greater love have I seen. That's the point. The point is getting to a point where we can empower ourselves and then empower everyone else. How? By the way by which we are operating. How do we create this cosmological, theological, biological system that is so empowering? Empowering means attractive. We do that by what I talked about in day 7 of As a Man Thinketh. Number 1, purpose. Number 2, authenticity. Number 3, the golden rule. Works out all the time because that's what Jesus did. I'm here to do the will of my Father. When you've seen me, you've seen the Father. He knew who he was. He was authentic. He had purpose. And he treated everybody the way that he wanted to be treated. If you do those 3 things, which is very hard to do because number 1, so what are we doing? We're going to make sure that everybody know their purpose. That's where the decode report comes in. That's where the new, hopefully you've already gotten the new report. And I've done, quite a few, but there's still quite a few people who, haven't tapped into that new, to the new higher, use the word higher, level of awareness because we're just focusing only on spirit now. And all I did was, again, just extrapolate just the spiritual aspects of your nature. And then delved deeper into, over and understanding how that spiritual nature actually works, what we call don't work. So that allows us to be able to establish and basically structure the mind, establish the belief, and then master what we want to call, cosmology, which breaks down into theology, and then last into biology. So it's the biology of belief, the mastery of cosmology, and the theology of transformation. So we see that three-threaded cord again of cosmology, theology, and biology. It is that three-threaded cord that is not easily broken. Cosmology, theology, biology. We see it all the time. That's why I talk about it so much, because of the importance of over understanding, because that gives you a level of awareness where you're able to rise above and you're able to see how we all are being influenced, especially when we talk about social media addiction and the misuse of dopamine, where we get addicted to, these false narratives, because the body believes that you are engaging in purpose-based production. But it's not purpose-based, because it's not moving you in the direction of fulfilling your God-given destiny and diakonia. So that is the dangers, if you will, that term of AI. Artificial intelligence becomes dangerous when we don't use it correctly. So it's not that it's dangerous, it's the way by which we are using it that's dangerous, because it's not enhancing, it's not amplifying purpose. It becomes purpose. So those are the three benefits, the three main purposes of over and understanding spiritual technology and spiritual technologists, because it allows you to, awaken the divine, decode truth, empower yourself through the ability to properly utilize AI or artificial intelligence for the purpose of expanding, amplifying, and advancing. And so it's not just for entertainment. That's part of it, but that's not the main piece of the puzzle. That's not the main reason that it exists. That's not the reason that we exist. So we can't be replaced because of our humanity. But there are going to be some people who believe or think that you can be replaced, or that it can be replaced, when in actuality it can't. So our job is just to be able to tap into the fact that each and every one of us is in a state where we have to be able to tap into this over, under, and understanding, so that way we can be successful in life. Otherwise, what happens is we slow down our own transition and our own processes from that state, from a place of over, and understanding that at the end of the day, each and every one of us, we have this ability to be able to, if we over, and understand how to do it. And that's what this is all about. It's just basically understanding that, okay, if it is to be, it is up to me. That's pretty much it. No matter how you slice it and dice it, at the end of the day, that's all we're saying. We're always saying that if it is to be, it is up to me. Now, sure, we know that there is some biblical, aspects to that, so on and so forth. So we're not walking around here saying that, we don't need God, or with God's, blah, 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 like some people say. All we're simply saying is that, saying the Bible says faith without works is dead. And so it's very, very important that we over and understand that we are operating in those works area. We have to believe in our potential that was given to us by God. We're going to operate in a space and in a place where we are literally utilizing our gifts and our talents and our skills, and we're moving forward with those gifts and with those talents and with those skills. That's pretty much it. But that little bit is very, very difficult to do, Because when you really tap into it and when you really see what's really happening, we are so distracted because there are so many gadgets. When you look at the young people today, it's difficult because there are a lot of gadgets. It makes it difficult to, just focus on one thing. And when you think about it, it's like, okay, man, it's very difficult. Most people wake up and they have a bunch of things to do. When really you should just have one thing. I wake up morning, every day I wake up, I do the same thing. What I'm doing right now. I do shows, write books, do one-on-ones. I just help facilitate. And so now the goal is to get you to the point, get all of us to the point where we are the message. You're the message. You have a message. I have a message. So we just don't teach. We literally transmute or we transmit. We activate. We ascend by going within. That is the whole point. That is the whole benefit of becoming a certified spiritual technologist. Because you're here to learn to decode spiritual truth, to literally embody Christ consciousness, and to use AI, artificial intelligence as a way to scale your impact. That's the power of understanding spiritual technology and mastering and becoming a spiritual technologist and using artificial intelligence to scale, to amplify, to be able to express, expose, and expand your own self or your own selves. That's the point. That's it. It's not here to, we're here to worship it. We're not here to be afraid of it. We're here to do, WWJD. What would Jesus do? And if just from that perspective, or what would Yahushua do? But even that, again, goes back to what we said at the beginning of the show. The whole point is to get out of majoring in the minors. When you become a spiritual technologist, you're entering into a new priesthood. We are now under the lineage and the order of Melchizedek. This is a new spiritual archetype where you're not just a coach or a teacher. You literally are a transmitter of source or divine intelligence. Your spinal cord is your spiritual antenna. So you are using it and you are activating and you are understanding and you are learning everything about biotheology, which allows you to understand everything about theology and cosmology, so that way you're able to activate the umpteen trillion cells inside of your body, and you literally become a portal for divine activation. That establishes your own path to spiritual mastery, so that way you have a mental disposition that cannot be shaken in the face of adversity. So as we said at the beginning, that divine intelligence, that is where divine intelligence or spiritual intelligence meets and defeats artificial intelligence. See, because AI is really not the enemy. Because AI is AI is like money. Or it's like alcohol. It's like drugs. It just amplifies what's already there. So when you hear and when you learn, it's like any other, vice, any other temptation. Your job is to master it. We are all here the same thing like King Solomon did in the Lesser Keys of Solomon. He had complete mastery. So he didn't run from adversity. You're supposed to go down. You're supposed to take the keys of death and the grave. Where death, where is your sting? Grave, where is your victory? You have mastery. You're no longer operating in fear. You're operating in a greater power. You over and understand. And so now that path that you are on brings about total vibrationally submission by every other obstacle. Now you have power. Dunamis power. The same power that Yahushua had. It's a totally different awareness. It's a totally different perspective. It's a totally different way of seeing the world. And each one of these modules, just like what I've been doing over the last 30 years, it's no different. It's just now at a totally complete level. I always struggled with these last pieces of the puzzle until of going through a deeper level, especially going through the history of the 30-year war and reading how 8 million people were slaughtered, primarily in, Europeans and in Europe. 30 years of war over religion. But it was empowered by the printing press. Because as long as somebody in Germany didn't know what somebody in Ireland or Russia believed, they was not their enemy. But the moment that your belief was put into print, where it was permanently printed and placed in a newspaper, the printing press empowered the 30-year war in 1618 to 1648. If you have not read your history, you should go back, or you should Google or Claude or ChatGPT. What was the cause, or what was the purpose of the 30-year war? Now you got to delve, because if you type in 30-year war, it's just going to bring up some generic stuff. But when you really do some research and act like I do, remember, spiritual technologists, which is why I'm certified and trying to teach everybody, is just the etymology of the spirit realm, which is the etymology of math and music and language, which is the etymology of cosmology, the etymology of theology, and the etymology of biology. If you do etymology, I got $100,000. You will never ever get into an argument. You'll never be frustrated. You'll never be angry. You could be in debt. But you'll realize that money in this world is patriarchal. But God's money is matriarchal. So in other words, you can't make money because you are money. When you understand what money is, then you know money is feminine energy. That's why there's no feminine energy. That's why you see all the people that are primarily Caucasian males. Because that way you have to make money. See, I don't make money. I create money. It's feminine. What is feminine energy? Nurturing, compassion, love, joy, peace, gentleness, meekness, self-control, my enthusiasm. I gotta get back to my old, yelling and screaming and boo-boo days when I was having fun. Why? That's feminine. But when we get into the masculine energy, that's why there's no vowels in the ancient text. It's only consonants. The dominant culture, that's why we don't have the Ethiopian. We're on a Gregorian calendar. Pope Gregory set this up. If you really want to go, you ever done your research on who is Pope Gregory? What did Pope, not Constantine, we know about him, but what about Pope Gregory? See, what about the Cathars, man? What about the Knight Templars? Could you imagine? All of this is inside of, that's what we've got to go through, because we must. Because reality is been and has been engineered. Everything has been engineered. So your money problems, your health problems, everything is artificial. But it's real to you. That pain in your back, or the lack of funds in the bank, or that's real. So we can't be so heavenly minded that we're no earthly good. That used to be me too. That's why I thank God that I went through and I had to work out my own salvation with fear and trembling. I didn't read this in a book. So I had to understand examination, contemplation, research, observation, measurement, prayer, praise, excitement, inspiration, and then expectation. That's what I have placed inside of the Masterteacher33 Academy for the purpose sharing and teaching spiritual technology. Or we all will be replaced with artificial. The same way there was a 30-year war because of the printing press, there's coming a war because of the artificial. Because now, instead of text, it's tech. And what are people going to be fighting over? People are going to be willing to unalive you if you don't get that digital ID technology. If you don't put that neural link in your skull, bro, so we can monitor you. If you don't put that quantum dot tattoo in your hand, so when you go to the grocery store, we ain't got to wait on you to go through all that stuff and pull all that stuff, man. Why don't you just put it in your hand, bro, and wave your hand over the thing? Wait, what you mean? You know, what about the mark of the beast? Who cares, man? You holding up the line. The next war is going to be over technology. Like the last one was over the printing press, or text, I should say. But we can't demonize AI. We have to understand how do we, same thing that Solomon did before he kind of lost his way. But he didn't lose his way because of the text or the tech. Not even the demons. Solomon lost his way because he did what God told him not to do. He married some strange women. And he went outside of his calling, his protection. The only way, remember, the word Christ means the messianic office that furnishes the person when they are in their office with dunamis power. Jesus had power because of his office. You got power when you get in your office. But the moment you step outside of your purpose, your destiny, your decode, oh, bruh, it's open season for you, homie. So people be teaching and worrying about the wrong thing. You should do the same thing Jesus did. When he was on the cross, he asked his mama, hey, why you crying? He said, let the dead bury the dead. He said, I'm here. I'm about my Father's business, man. I'm not here to do my will. I'm here to do the will of the Father. He knew his purpose, his destiny, his decode. Do you know yours? Most Negroes I talk to, they don't know their destiny. They know they man-made. They know their job, but they don't know their destiny. They don't know what's in their DNA. So the spiritual awakening curriculum focuses on waking people up so they get power. Now again, like all my stuff, this is not for new believers. Because this is people who sold out. There's some people that are not sold out, they still playing church. And again, it's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with that, man. Sure, you're like, hey. I respect people who understand, like, hey, man, I'm not no field Negro. I'm a house Negro. I'm going to stay in the house, bro. Wash the dishes. I'm not trying to go out there in that sun and pick no damn cotton. I ain't mad at you, dog. I feel you. See, your clarity determines your technology. AI isn't just about automation. AI is all about amplification. When you understand really what AI is and what it's about, sure, it's like everything on this planet is evil. But it's evil because why? 2 Corinthians 4:4, the God of this world uses it. So the God is going to take what the enemy meant for evil, turn it around and use it for good. You should do the same thing. So I'm no longer trying to change evil. I understand. I do what same thing that Deion Sanders did, Michael Irvin did, and a lot of other people. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. Michael Irvin says it's the best. Catch or ghetto. That's my new mantra. That's the purpose of everything I'm doing moving forward. Catch or ghetto. What does that mean? Michael Irvin was telling the story about it, and I talked about this on my Facebook Live earlier. It's powerful, man. When you understand now, I understand why God put hell in the Bible. And why that? Hey, I got a new respect for the preachers that do preach the fire and brimstone message, because I don't necessarily need it, but I do need fear, because the world we live in, fear. So Michael Irvin had a fear of going across the middle and catching that ball, because the safety was going to light him up, and the safety was Ronnie Lott. Remember that fool he was a very good tackler. For people that don't know, in other words, Michael Irvin had a fear. This was in his own words. It's on TikTok. It's floating around on the YouTube channel. But people said he was fearless about going across the middle. You know what he said? He had a greater fear than Ronnie Lott. Now let me say that shit again, man. Heavenly Father, touch the mind of your people. He had a fear of going over the middle and getting hit. But he had a greater fear of not going over the middle, being replaced, and going back to the ghetto. He used one fear to overpower a lesser fear. Oh, that's come on, man. I don't know if y'all understand. God does the same thing. So it's okay if the preacher uses hell to install fear. Because without that message, someone like me, that's why I got saved, quote unquote, for fire insurance. Otherwise, I'd still be out there doing what I was doing. So all I'm saying is that before you do what I've been doing, take a deep breath. Go back to what Jesus said. Remember, I'm not for Paul, Peter, John, Matthew, Mark. I'm none against them, but I'm a Jesus only guy. If it's not in the red letters, if Jesus didn't say it, I ain't interested. And if you look at it, when they ask him, hey, dog, can you sum up the entire gospel for us? He said, absolutely. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And the second is just like the first. Love your neighbor as yourself. So I know a lot of people that have a lot of problems with their neighbor. You got a problem with Trump? You got a problem with Biden? You go to church every Sunday. Why do we got to? Because we believe what they doing, we judging them. Then the Bible says, judge not, lest ye be judged. Now, I don't like what they doing either. However, I'm sure there's some things that I'm doing they don't like. That's how wars start. So we got to go higher. That's the point of becoming a certified spiritual technologist. So that way we can make sure that we establishes the pillars of heaven. That we awaken God's people to a higher calling. So no, I'm not interested in taking the LGBT off the streets. Why? It don't take money in, it don't take money out. So in Texas, they saying, hey, they gotta take that off the streets. But what does that do? That causes division. See how the enemy works? But you doing something too that, what if you was the governor of Texas? You know what you would be doing? Same thing. Except you'd be promoting your beliefs. You would not be promoting God's beliefs. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul. That should be the only two things in politics. It should be the only two things in the bank. It should be the only two things in the gym. It should be the only two things on your marriage certificate or your marriage license, your relationship. Love God first. Love others second. Treat other people the way that you want to be treated. If Abbott did that, if Trump did that, if Biden had did it when he was in office, he might still be in. So nobody does it. That's the whole point of becoming and establishing certified spiritual technologist. I don't want to use no religious terms. If I could find another word for spiritual, I would have done it. I didn't want to say, minister or ambassador or any of those terms because that's a religious connotation. That's why I use the word technologist. This is about establishing a community of like-minded people seeking to establish heaven on earth, because that's what everybody should be doing. If nobody else is doing it, my praise leads me to be productive and establish Christ consciousness that is based upon activating a high vibrational mindset that says, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. All things work together for my good. God has not given me a spirit of fear, but he gave me a spirit of love, power, and a sound mind. That's what we're establishing. So again, we're setting everything up. We'll probably pop this bad boy off. Actually this is for 2026. This is supposed to be starting in January, but every year I always start early. So we're going to probably pop it off, probably end of this month or the early part of November. I'll have the price structure and everything, but just make sure that you want to mark your calendars, because you definitely want to be a part of the Masterteacher33 Academy and become a certified spiritual technologist. Man, I love you. Appreciate you. I got more coming later. God bless.